So, you're going to build a raised garden bed. In my opinion, that's excellent. To me, it's the best way to grow veggies. So, you've decided on the style, you decided on the location. The only thing left is to decide what size. I've got several tips and tricks to help you decide on the optimal size for your new raised garden bed. So, having built close to 1,000 garden beds over the last 3 years, I learned a few things along the way. So, when designing a raised veggie bed for either myself or for a client, I've got 3 main criteria that I use. And after using this 3 criteria, the garden bed always ends up the right size. Okay, so the first criteria, and to me, probably the most important, is the size of dimensional lumber. Now, I mentioned this in my previous DIY garden bed video. Dimensional lumber comes in 96-inch lengths, 8 feet. So, you've got your space for your bed, you know roughly what size you want to make it. And knowing this size, and knowing the size of dimensional lumber, you can come up with the most economical use of that wood. So, I don't talk about my beds in the greenhouse too much, but here they are right here. I built them, when I built the greenhouse, so 6 years ago. And these guys are actually 1x7s. It's the only time I've ever built that size. When I needed long, skinny beds because I wanted to grow single rows of plants up to the ceiling. So 1x7 means I got a 7-foot length. Once I cut that 7-foot length, I'm left with a foot left over, which gives me these cross beams, the end pieces. It's a perfect use of wood. You know, these guys are 3 layers high, so I used exactly 6 lengths of wood. 2x4 on the top, 2x6 in the middle, 2x4 on the bottom. Same thing on the other side. Once I cut them, the end pieces were a given. That's it. The easiest bed to build. No scrap wood left over, no wastage. Perfect use of wood. So you can apply this to any size bed you're going to make. You know, be it an 8x2, an 8x4, a 4x4, a 6x2, even 2x2s, 5x3s. Just make sure you're keeping in mind dimensional lumber is 8 feet long. So here's some examples of some different size beds that I've built, keeping in mind dimensional lumber size. Okay, so even though I put dimensional lumber as the first criteria, it's actually something you apply at the end once you know the other 2 criterias. Number 2 on my list of what size to build your raised garden bed is what you're going to grow. Now by this time, if you're taking the plunge to build a raised garden bed, chances are you know what you're going to grow or the types of vegetables that you're going to grow. Because not all plants have the same space requirements. You know, if you were setting out to plant potatoes, rutabagas, long Nantes carrots, you know, you're going to be looking at a bed that has a minimum height of 12 to 16 inches. You know, similarly with peppers and tomatoes, they've got a pretty deep, extensive root system. They're also going to require a bed at least 12 inches high. You know, conversely, if you're growing things like lettuce and spinach and herbs, you know, even strawberries, you don't need that deep of a bed. You can get away with actually 4 to 6 inches, which will save you not only on lumber, but also on soil. So you can see here, these are 4 of the oldest beds that I built. And you can see they're 2 different heights. Now the ones on the left are 12 inches in height, and the ones on the right are 16 inches in height. And so the reason for this is that these two beds here were originally going to be potato beds. I was going to alternate them between potatoes and carrots, and then I would do succession gardening with peas to keep the soil well conditioned. But I found potato growing to not be very rewarding. I do grow carrots here and there, but mostly as companion crops. So if you ever wondered why these sets of beds were different heights, it's not for aesthetic reasons because it doesn't look pretty. It's because what I was planning to grow inside those beds. So what you're going to grow is key to the size of bed that you're going to need. This brings me to my third criteria, and the one that is most often overlooked. Accessibility. So I'm here on the south side of my greenhouse with two beds I built the summer after I built the greenhouse. And so these beds, I'll tell you the dimensions, they're 6 by 2. And the reason they're 6 feet long is because they span the length of the south side of the greenhouse. That's fine. But why are they 2 feet wide? Well, they're 2 feet wide because of accessibility. Now, accessibility is very important. If you only have access to one side of the bed, you do not want a 4-foot wide bed. 8 by 4 is the most common, the most requested size raised garden bed. But it is a pain to reach the middle, to weed, to harvest, to plant. 8 by 4, I always steer my clients to an 8 by 2 unless they have access to all sides. Check out that rainbow chard. Out of the way, kale. Wow. Gotta do something with that tonight. Nice chard. So, as you can see here, 2 feet, using the square foot gardening method means I can get 2 rows of plants in here. And so because this is the south side of my greenhouse, summertime, these guys always get the hot stuff. So we've got the cantaloupes down here, and then we got the pepper plants in the back. We come over to the next one. Excuse the giant starfire tomato plant that's taking over everything. Now, someone in a video suggested not to prune your bush tomato suckers. Well, that was a mistake. So in this bed here, we've got watermelons in the front, and then again, another row of peppers in the back. I can easily reach the back, without breaking my back. And obviously the front is easy to reach. 6 by 2, but more importantly, by 2. Accessibility. Do not overlook it. So, same thing with these beds. I know I've shown you them a million times. These are my lettuce beds up against the west fence. But they are also 2 feet wide. Right? 1 row of lettuce here, 1 row of lettuce here. Ignore the zucchini. See, essentially 2 rows of basil. And then this guy, the mesclun mix, has just taken over, but it was seeded in 2 rows. But yeah, accessibility. It's always overlooked. Until you got to go weed a 4-foot wide bed. So that was my 3 criteria. When I'm designing a garden bed, either for myself or for a client, I always run it through those 3 criteria to figure out the sizing. All right, I hope you found the video informative. I hope you found it interesting. If so, click subscribe for similar videos. As always, leave a question or comment below. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to see your garden beds. Link your videos too. I'll watch them. I'll subscribe. Anything to do with gardening, and especially raised bed building, I'm all over it. I'm always interested. Okay, guys, I'll see you next time. Now, I should probably do the parting shot amongst raised beds, since that is the topic of the video. But this grape plant is so cool. I've never grown grapes before. Super excited to get them this year.